Hey guys, welcome back to Pro Gun. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel. We'd greatly appreciate it. Today I want to talk to you about personal protection inside the home. I'd like to share some things with you so that you can help yourself and your family by developing a safety plan that will keep everyone safe in the event of a home invasion or unwanted people trying to access your home. Before we start, the first thing that you need to be familiar with are your gun laws of your state. They vary from state to state, so you need to find out if you have a castle doctrine law or if you have the duty to retreat. Another thing is, when you decide to use a firearm for personal defense, you need to ask yourself, if you had to use deadly force, can you do it? Okay, whether it's psychological reasons or philosophical reasons or religious reasons, you need to make damn sure that if it came down to it, you could pull the trigger if you had to. Let's start off with awareness. Situational awareness is key to survival. Now, you're watching television with your family or listening to music and you have your headphones on. At that point, you're unaware because you're in your home, you're supposed to feel safe, and you're basically not interested or not paying attention to anything else going on around you. All you're worried about is having fun and watching, a show with your family. And that's fine. Next thing is, you hear something out on the porch or a car in the driveway. All of a sudden, your awareness now goes from unaware to aware. You know something is going on outside of the activities you're engaged in. Now you look out the window and you see a stranger on the porch. And you've identified that it's a possible threat. Well, now your awareness level goes up from aware to alert. Now, at this point, adrenaline's flowing because you have a potential of a home invasion, but it could just be someone lost or, someone that needs help. Then you hear the window break or somebody banging on the front door. Well, now it goes to alarm. And at that point, you have to be ready to react. Now, home invasions are a very serious thing. They happen every day. And the idea of this is not to scare you, but to prepare you. I want to share some information with you so that you can keep yourself and your family safe and give you suggestions on some of the things you can do. First thing you can do is make your home harder to break into. And what I mean by that is every access door to your home should have a solid core door at minimum, preferably metal, with deadbolts. Okay? A security system, cameras, motion detectors, alarms, things like that make the bad guys decide to move on. They don't want to have to fuss around with things like that. They want to get in and they want to get out, and they don't want to waste time. They'll just try to find an easier home. Another thing to keep in mind is that all home invasions are not robbery motivated. You can have somebody strung out on crack that breaks into your home because they think they're going to find drugs or cash, but everybody that breaks into a home doesn't have the intention of robbery. Some people are more devious. You may have a serial killer that busts into somebody's home just to kill people, or a rapist that just breaks into a woman's apartment or her home to rape her. So I'm going to give you some suggestions, and one of them is to develop a safe room. Now, a safe room should be a room, if an emergency like that happened, you can get to the safe room, close the door, lock the deadbolt until police arrive. Okay. The safe room should have a solid core door as well, preferably metal. Should have a deadbolt. You should have a firearm. You should have a set of house keys and a set of car keys in case there's a window in that room and you could safely get out and take off. You should have a flashlight, and you should have a cell phone. And even an old cell phone that's been disconnected can still dial 911, so you can still keep one of those in there. In the event that you make it to your safe room and you have the door locked, first thing you do is you call law enforcement. Now, you want to let the bad guy know that you know he's there and that you have a firearm. And if it was me personally, like I was trained in my class, I would yell through the door telling them that I've notified police, they're on their way, I have a gun, and I'll shoot. Most of the time, if they hear the word gun, they're going to probably hightail it out of there. They don't want to get shot. So that's one of the things you can do, and you practice it with your family. Practice a situation where, on a monthly basis, everyone goes to the safe room. If you have small children in the home, sometimes it's easier to have the safe room be one of the children's rooms because it's easier for you to get to them than have your children scrambling through the house in an emergency situation. Another thing you need to do is walk through your home, and it should be a very simple thing to go room to room and find what rooms you're most vulnerable in. And what I mean by that is there's two things you need to take into consideration. One is cover and one is concealment. Every room may not have cover, every room may not have concealment. So you walk through the rooms and find out what can you use for concealment? Where can you hide so that they won't see you? And the other thing is, what can you use for cover? For instance, strategically placed bookcases are great for cover. A stack of books on a bookcase this wide, even a 357 Magnum is not going to go through all of those books. What cutouts do you have in your room or corners that you can use for cover? The stairway, for instance, the stairways are great places for cover because there's usually a cutout to the left or to the right where you can hide behind it and still draw your firearm, take your shot, and go back. Okay? You may not always have the luxury of getting to the safe room. For example, we spend most of our time in the family room downstairs. And there's only one way in and one way out of there. And if somebody busts through the garage and walks into the family room, there's nowhere to go. We're stuck there. However, we do have plenty of objects in there that we can use for cover and concealment. And we always have a firearm strategically placed somewhere. You may want a gun magnet where you can have your firearm underneath the coffee table or, on the armrest of a chair or under a coffee table or end table, nightstand. So you need to identify where you would be most vulnerable and see what steps you can do to remedy that. Another place that could be vulnerable is in the living room. If you have your safe room upstairs and you're in the living room and somebody busts through the front door, in a lot of cases, the steps going upstairs are right in front of the front door. So you won't be able to get upstairs. That's another thing you need to take into consideration. And if something like that happened, how would you react? There's also a couple things that you need to keep in mind. You have the moral and legal obligation to stop the threat, and that's it. Okay? the intention is to stop, not to kill. I've had students say to me, if somebody broke into my house, I would just unload the magazine on them. Well, the problem with that is if someone breaks in your home and you take one shot and you kill him, or you seriously injure him, and that threat has been stopped, and then you decide to pump 15 rounds into him, the jury's probably not going to like that. Another thing that's very important you should never do is if an intruder's in your home and you take out your firearm and they exit your house, under no circumstances should you run out the door behind them and start shooting at them. I would bet you any money that you would have a pretty good chance of getting convicted for premeditated murder because the threat has left. They're no longer a threat. If you're in the home and they're outside, you chose to take your firearm, go outside and shoot them. Another thing is, if you hear someone banging on the door late at night, why would you be opening the door, right? And if you do go to the door to open it, don't open the door and have a firearm in your hand because, there's circumstances like that. It could be a law enforcement officer that is knocking on the door to tell you that the loved one was just killed in a car accident, or they just found your car that was stolen that you didn't even know about. And if they knock on the door and you answer the door with a gun in your hand like this, they don't know if you're the good guy or the bad guy, and odds are you're probably going to get shot, and they'll probably get away with it because it's not the norm to have people answer the door with a gun in their hand. So I'm hoping that you can take some of this into consideration and give some thought into developing a plan. There's no one size fits all. What works for me may not work for you and vice versa, but everything works for somebody. And you need to develop your own strategy and practice it so you can keep yourself and your family safe. Thanks for watching.